George McKnight produced TV programs for Shaw Community Cable in Port Alberni from 1985 to 1998. As It Was and the Way It Was documented a range of topics and people relevant to the history and culture of the Alberni Valley. Thanks to funding from BC 150, celebrating influential women, seniors, and elders, approximately 50 of the original tapes have been digitized and cataloged and are now available for research at the Alberni Valley Museum. George McKnight's programs ensured that local stories will not be lost, providing a legacy of local history.
I guess you could be called a legitimate Port Alberni old-timer since you've been here since how long? About 19...
Well, my people came to Port Alberni in 1906.
You've, over the years, told me various times of very interesting stories about the background of the community, history here. And one of the most interesting stories you've told about is the 1924 fire.
Oh, the big fire.
Yeah, maybe you'd like to tell us about that.
Yes, well, this fire, you know, they didn't seem to worry much about fires in those days, you know, and they never put them out in lots of cases.
They waited for the rain.
Well, yeah, that's right. They're hoping for rain to put the fire out and they're hoping that the fire would burn itself out, sort of stuff. And,
yeah.
And, you know, this fire had been burning up the top end, like up Roger Creek by the old rifle range. I was... with Bob Burmacombe, we were swimming. The bathing houses used to be right where the Imperial oil tanks are now.
Oh yes, that's this picture here.
That's the picture here now. Yeah. That's exactly where the bathing houses used to be.
Yeah.
Well, we were swimming there, and it got to be... the smoke seemed to be getting, you know, pretty strong, and little bits of ferns and stuff were dropping.
Yes.
So we jumped on our bikes and we rode up to 3rd Avenue.
Yes.
And boy, when we got up there, you know, that fire was now just a really whooping her up, eh?
Yes.
So we looked at it for a few minutes, and then we went back down to go swimming. When we got back down to the waterfront, the fire bell rang.
Mm-hmm. So,
gee, the fire bell rang, and so we forgot about swimming then. Well, he goes back up. Now, by this time, I guess it's getting between 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes.
And things were getting really panicky. Everything was in an uproar. The fire had come right through and come through the crown fire, you called it, eh?
Yes, in the tops of the trees. Yeah.
And it came down through where the high school is now.
Oh, yes, yes.
It came down through there, and it just roared right through the tops of the trees on where the 10th Avenue fill is there.
Right.
Now there was no road at the 10th Avenue fill in those days.
No.
But that's where it came through.
Yeah.
And the fire department decided that they'd try and stop it. And now it's getting pretty smoky, you know. It ended up for about a week there. It was just like a bad, bad fog.
Yes.
And everybody's eyes were red from the smoke and everything. But anyhow, so much for that afternoon. Everybody was trying to fight this fire and stop it on 10th Avenue, which they did.
Yeah.
But that fire, you wouldn't believe it. It burned all up on the summit by Loon Lake.
Oh, yeah.
All through there.
Yeah.
On both sides of the mountain highway.
Mm-hmm.
And it burned all of Mineral Hill.
Yeah.
It burned the whole of that. It burned over into the foothills of Arrowsmith.
Oh, yes.
And the mountain between Arrowsmith and Cameron Lake, that whole side hill there, it burnt that. Obviously, the dead snags all up there now.
Yeah.
It burnt that whole deal.
Yeah.
So it pretty well just burned itself out. And but I was quite surprised that it never really got across China Creek.
In those days, they didn't have the equipment that they have now to fight fires, and of course, the water bombers they put a fire out pretty fast if it gets begins to get a little out of hand. But in those days, there was no bulldozers. And it was if you were fighting fire, it was a case of a mattock and,
Yeah.
shovels,
a little backfiring.
a little backfiring, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
That day, when that fire came through at 10th Avenue there and the
Yeah.
treetops,
Yeah.
it was just a great big roar, you know.
Some of the earlier copies of the As It Was program are also held by the BC Archives Moving Images Collection.